Hello, Man United agenda family. I know what you're thinking. What is Rebel doing here at this time on a Sunday? Well, taking an idea from Mick Ruby, this is the Takeover Week in Review with me, Rebel, on the Man United agenda. Well, hello everyone, and you're very welcome here to a rare Sunday afternoon edition of the Man United agenda. I'm Rebel, and I wanted to give a short platform on regards to the Takeover Week in Review. I'd be very interested to see your views on matters that were discussed throughout the week. But here's some of the events that happened in summary. We had Tier 1 journalists go into a meltdown because nobody seemed to know what was going on when the bid deadline hit. Some Tier 1 journalists were saying bids were in, some were saying bids weren't. And it completely and utterly broke the circle of trust between us as speculators watching in and those Tier 1 journalists who seemed to be all over the place when it came to deciding what was going on. We had a Finnish businessman who wanted to launch a absolutely crazy last-minute bid position where he was going to front up 50% and then have United fans come in for the other 50%. Given the timeline that would take, obviously that was impossible. So then we come to the situation where bids eventually arrived over the weekend from both Enos and Sheikh Shazim. And it's interesting that apparently all sorts of carrots now are being offered to the Glazer family in order to move them out of Old Trafford. The latest one that I've heard, and again, it's not verified that it did occur, was that Qatar are offering the Glazer family an opportunity to bring the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, their American football franchise, over to Qatar to play an exhibition match, which would be worth much money to the Glazer family. Now, what I want to know is, what do you think of the events? Are we really looking at Glazer corporate greed at this point? Because it looks like the bid that's going in from Qatar is almost hitting 100% of what they want. But the reports again today are that Avram Glazer, who holds 11% of Manchester United Football Club, is very reluctant to sell the club. So again, maybe he's holding out for another bit of a tickle under the chin. But what I want to know is, those of you in the chat, there's 5 wonderful people here with me here on this Sunday afternoon. What do you think of the events of this takeover? Because given the way that business occurs, it just does not seem like it should be going the way it does. And we have our first comment of the day. Hello, Bilal. How are we doing, mate? Any thoughts on the takeover events? Because this week, it nearly belonged in a Roald Dahl book. There was so much twists and turns and absolute unbelievable events. Sky Cave got caught with his trousers down when he was told, everybody on national news, that yes, the bids are in, the job is done, and now it's time for verification. Only to have to roll back a couple of hours later and go, oh, the sources were wrong, there's no bids in. And global news, as we know it, fell into meltdown. But now, in regards to the current bids, the Qatari bid is rumoured to be in the region of £6 billion. Now, that does not take into account the debt and the current situation with Old Trafford. Old Trafford, it's unknown how much damage has been done to the physical infrastructure over the period of time that the Glazer family have held it. When they got their mitts on Manchester United Football Club, they had one of the stadiums that was the envy of the footballing world. They had everything and they just had to keep working on it. Now Old Trafford is in a situation where it could need radical structural engineering alterations. And that is down to neglect 100%. Now, we are getting rolling here because I want this to be you, the viewer show, the opinion show. Miko, you're saying 1 billion for each Glazer. Yeah, that is essentially what this sums up as. Like, at the end of the day, it looks like they are being fairly boisterous in their way of thinking because they do not want to sell for anything other than the max that they can achieve out of it. So they are holding soldiers to fortune. There was a rumor out there that this whole bidding process was a charade, that Avram Glazer wanted to gauge how much he could get his paws on in the event that they wanted to sell down the line. And really what they were looking to do was to do a deal for a part payment that would cover their siblings and get them out of the club. Mr. B, how are we doing? I think that is the bottom line. It's even showing that credible, reputable journalists are actually being found out that they know zilch. And like we saw that with even the likes of Romano were found out because they tweeted the bid is in, and he never tweets until he has full final confirmation. Niall, how are we doing, buddy? Give me your thoughts on the takeover events last week, because elements of it were farcical. There was a comedy of misinformation and change in direction. And what I want to know is as well, the Finnish businessman, what did you think of his idea? Now, in principle, as Manchester United fans, the idea that we would hold the keys to the club, absolutely fantastic. But to set up something of that magnitude, it would take so long that the Glazer family would probably have to be staying in position all of next season. It just would not be possible to get something going like that in such a short time frame, because you'd have to set up so many systems and structures to get it done. Meanwhile, Manchester United also have a situation where we have a number of players that are out of contract. And Mr. B discussed this matter on the Friday night takeaway. If you missed it, please do scroll back onto it, because they were full and frank with regards to the way they wanted to, I suppose, see what Manchester United were going to be doing in terms of leadership, because they do not want to commit to a club whose future is uncertain. At the moment, there's uncertainty around who is holding the leverage in terms of the key decision-making processes above the manager. And Rashford is reluctant to sign up to a club that may still have many, many issues next season. I want to know your thoughts on that one too. Mr. B, yes, I believe you're right. I believe that Viliakos was in it for publicity. Some say that Sir Jim in the Chelsea bid was in it for publicity. Now, here's the thing with Sir Jim. I saw an article that he is a Chelsea season ticket holder. He is believed to have been originally a Manchester United fan, but as a Chelsea season ticket holder, do you think his motivation for Manchester United could possibly be dwelling in to the publicity side? Because euro for euro, pound for pound, how could he match the Qatari bids? Because they have limitless resourcing in that front. Won't believe anything until they see the Sheikh or Sir Jim holding a United shirt. That is very true. But, gentlemen, I want to know your opinions. If you have to offer the Glazer family an exhibition game for their Tampa Bay Buccaneer franchise in order to sweeten the pot above £6 billion, which is reported to be the bid. You got to question what exactly is going on in the minds of Joel and Avram Glazer, and who exactly is digging their heels in and looking for more. They bought this club, well, their father bought this club way back when for €700 million. They leveraged 90% of that. So, in essence, they've never spent a cent on Manchester United Football Club. The money that was spent in transfers and misused in transfers is essentially being done poorly and with negligence, because we spent over £1 billion since Sir Alex and David Gill retired. And it was all done with the idea of the furtherance of the commercial activities rather than the football activities. So Manchester United, despite having leeches for owners, have still managed to spend a considerable amount, but not in the correct fashion. Mr. B, obviously, again, this is speculation from the Red Tops, and the kind of going off the original £4.5 billion that was rejected in the round one bids. Again, this is confirmations only based on the media. So if they will not accept 4.5, it's believed that there's at least bids in excess of 5 billion to 6 billion in place in round two. Miko, yeah, John Obi Mikel was on his way and got hijacked on the way. We did get a nice compensation for that one, though. Anthony Herbert, 6 billion is too much, Rebel. You'll only get 3 to 4 billion at most. You see, Anthony, you're not dealing with logical people here. You're dealing with Joel and Avram Glazer. Manchester United Football Club is not going according to normal valuations. It's going according to two greedy men that want to maximize what they can extrapolate out of it in order to leave. I don't know if you remember a publication called Sportico. They were the ones that originally let the world know that Todd Bowley was going to be the new owner of Chelsea Football Club. They actually did a valuation based on commercial activities and all the rest of it at the start of January. And they put United at 5.8 billion valuation. And unfortunately, I'd imagine the likes of Joel and Avram Glazer have seen those valuations going around the place. And it's because of those that they are digging their heels in and they are looking to take more than what the club is probably physically worth. So that's where those figures are coming from, Anthony. It's not a case of evaluating the fixed assets, evaluating the playing staff, evaluating the commercial, the entity as a whole, and taking off debt and whatnot. This is Glazer greed, and this is their valuation based on, well, we want this money, either that or we keep it, or we'll sell a small stake and we'll continue to ransack the lifeblood of the club. Moving on to the next comment here. It's a shame about Mikel. We only went and got Carrick. Yeah, well, I suppose that is the thing. If that had been successful, would we ever have seen Carrick in a Manchester United jersey? That is obviously paramount in the events. I suppose things happen for a reason. If we had succeeded in getting Ronaldinho all those years ago, would we have ever seen Cristiano Ronaldo? There's always going to be, I suppose, a knock-on effect. But I suppose I just wanted to do a short show today, just kind of evaluating the situation with Manchester United and everything that's happened this week. Just to summarise once again and get a few more of your comments in. We had a soft deadline for bids last week. That was 9 o'clock of a Wednesday evening. That came and went, and Tier 1 journalists were reporting this and that, and nobody seemed to know what was going on. As the days went on, it transpired, those bids weren't put in, that Sir Jim had looked for an extension, and therefore they offered it to the Qatari bid. And since then, nobody seems to know what is happening around the subject of the takeover bid. So, Tier 1 journalists seem to be just like us, outside looking in and trying to figure out what they think is going on based on putting one and one together. We now have reports that all bids are in and that a world record bid has been made for Manchester United from the Qatari delegation that is allegedly in the region of 5.5 to 6 billion, which, if it is absolutely obscene money. Let's call a spade here. And that not only do they have to offer obscene money to ostracise the Glazers out of Manchester United Football Club, they also have to give additional sweeteners. They have to tickle the Glazer belly a bit more, give them a nice pat on the head and say, look, if all that money's not enough for you, how about bringing your NFL team to Qatar and we'll run a big exhibition game where we'll make you lots and lots of money and we continue with business arrangements that benefit you. At the end of the day, that then just tells me that the mentality of the owners, which we already knew, is always with their own self-interest at heart. You can't see anyone buying the club for 6 billion, and yes, they are greedy. That's why I said on Friday show, Rashford holding out for the right contract also. Anthony, I'd be honest with you, if I was Rashford, until there's kind of certainty in terms of the overall structure of Manchester United Football Club, I wouldn't be inclined to sign nada. Manchester United needs to have a grounded, set chain of command. And while this takeover business is ongoing, everybody's life is uncertain. Nobody knows whether they could find themselves surplus to requirements after events, whether or not Manchester United is even going to be in a position financially to compete if the Glazer family pulls out of selling, offloads its siblings' stakes to Elliott Management or some sort of hedge fund like that. And then we have the question of who then has the decision-making authority. Because if Joel and Adam's siblings' shares are sold, then they are the minor shareholders in Manchester United. Elliott would hold more shareholding than them in that situation. So you have to ask yourself then, what are they staying in there for? And what they're staying in there for is annual dividends. And if you were to do the math on annual dividends and only the two of them being the beneficiaries of the Glazer portion of those annual dividends, in their lifetime, in their children's lifetime, and in their children's lifetime, they will never be able to pull out in interest what they could make from a portion of the sale of Manchester United Football Club. So there you have to ask, what is the most motivation? Richard Herbert, good afternoon to you, sir. How are we doing? The club should be sold and bring in the reserves to the first team. Solo, how are we doing? And Richard is also saying hello again. So, any final comments there from the audience on this whole takeover situation? Because the purpose of this was just kind of talk about the events of last week and get your views on what's occurring. I'll give it another 3 or 4 minutes there, lads, and then we'll wrap up because I know you're all waiting for the England international team to take centre stage in little over, an hour and a half before England are playing. My beloved Ireland, God help them, are playing France tomorrow. So we could be in for a bit of a hiding because they tore the Dutch apart. But I'm just going to have a look here as well. I forgot about this story actually, that Ziliakos was looking to power up with Radcliffe and the Qatari bid to make one big giant bid to leave Manchester United free of the Glazers. Now, I don't know why he thought, particularly the Qatar bid, would need any sort of financial assistance to get things done if they were willing to go above a certain price tag. So, Mr. B, your assessment, that is probably for the reason of publicity, does kind of ring true. I'm going to roast some broccoli. Oh dear, Richard. And Anthony, Rebel, can you see this takeover happening soon? Seeing them drag on. Well, Anthony, I'd imagine like what you have to look at here is the Glazer family will, of course, be still floating around for while the paperwork's being done. We had an original target from the Rain Group that Manchester United would be sold by the end of March. The end of March is this week. So, unless something accelerates, then it is highly unlikely that a complete sale will be completed by that deadline. That then leaves us with the question of whether or not we will have an indication that a preferred bidder will be identified and that they are going to be dealing with that bidder with the purpose of closing out the deal as soon as possible. Look, we did see with the Chelsea bid, once Todd was identified as the key bidder, it did happen quite quickly. So it can happen quite quickly. But it will remain to be seen whether or not their greed can have a limit and that they can accept what is already more than reasonable offers for Manchester United Football Club. But I want to thank you all for joining me today. It was just a short kind of review show just to see where we stood on the takeover. But that is it from me, Rebel. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and your Sunday, and the Man United agenda will be back tomorrow. Talk to you again soon.